I'm Jack Davis. We're calling to order the joint meeting of the Public Health and Safety and F&B Committee. First item, we have an agenda, so we're getting started. And we have members of the Norotan Heights Fire Department, which we're going to do first. And then for F&B later, we have both Dr. Adley and Rich Rudel on the line for the next item of business. But so the first item is the approval and for the appropriation and bonding of a Darien fire truck in the amount of $861,400. Do I have, we'll first take it from F&B. Do I have somebody moving this? Raise your hand. I have Barry, and Malin, I'll have you second. Okay. So why don't we get started? Chief McEwen, why don't you do a quick presentation? Justin happens to be at work for us right now, so he's here, but he's also busy. So Zach, I'm going to let you go, and I'm going to mute myself.
Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Zach McEwen. I'm the Chief of Norotan Heights Fire Department. With me tonight is Justin Plank. As stated before, Justin is currently at a fire scene. He was able to break away and join us. I'm at work as a firefighter, so if I get an alarm call for service, Justin will take over at that time, but I'll just disconnect at that time if I do get a call. Tonight we're here to seek appropriation and bonding approval for a new engine. This would replace a 1989 Mack CF known to Norotan Heights Fire Department as Engine 23. This truck came to us in 2005 from New York City. It was a pumper down at it's called The Rock. It's the training center. During its time with New York City, it responded to 9/11 and was used there. After that, it was taken out of service. We put it into service at Norotan Heights Fire Department in 2006. It was a very cost-effective buy for us. We already had numerous Mack CF pumpers, so there was continuity between the layout of the truck already, and we had some parts in stock at that time. So tonight's ask is specifically for $825,415. I'm going to break that down for everybody. So that's $816,654. That's for the truck. That includes the chassis and the body work to be done. On top of that, there's an additional $8,761 for a mobile radio and for tool mounting services that'll be done at the dealership. The way the payment and the contract is laid out, it's $325,000 is due when the chassis is built and delivered to the body builder, which is Marion Body Works in Wisconsin. Once the body work is done by that company, the second part of that payment would be, additional would be $325,000, and that's due once the truck is inspected by fire personnel. If it's signed off, we will give them the check at that time. They still own the truck at that time until it gets to the firehouse. Once it's accepted at the firehouse, it'll be an additional $166,654, and that's due upon delivery, as I just stated. We plan on purchasing this apparatus similar to Ladder 30 was purchased for the Norotan Fire Department a few years back, and that's through the Houston Galveston Area Council Cooperative Purchasing Group. That is a cooperative purchasing group that allows us to not go out to bid. It's already been vetted by municipalities, for municipalities, and therefore it meets the town's bidding requirements. I had a question from the Board of Finance folks, and one thing that I talked to a rep about was how many people are using, the cooperative purchasing agencies, and they're seeing it more and more frequently, just because it's easier on the towns and the municipalities that are purchasing through them. So there's an ease of use for them as well. Sorry, just give me 1 second. So one of the other questions that came up with Board of Finance is how much is the current truck worth in scrap value? Due to its age, it doesn't really have another use for a fire department. So I just want to make that clear now. This isn't something that we're necessarily trading in for another fire department to buy it and go pump at fires like it is right now, where Justin's at. And the scrap value of engine 23 is $1,750. We do have some belief that it may have bear more value to a private individual who seeks trucks like that. They can be somewhat collectible. And then a background, just to back up, a committee was established in January 5th of 2022. They investigated the current truck, its condition, and parts availability is the biggest concern that they discovered. It was also evaluated by our dealership that we utilize for a lot of our service work, especially larger work that's needed to be done on our apparatus. They got back to me, not with a phone call, but with a letter stating everything that they're concerned about with the apparatus. And we'll get back into that in a little bit. I'll have Justin cover the mechanical side of what's wrong with the current truck and what parts we're going to have difficulty getting if you guys do not decide to replace this apparatus. What is Engine 23 used for? It's our primary pumper in the Norton Heights Fire Department. Also responds to mutual aid within the town of Darien, as well as to any adjoining districts, Stanford, New Canaan, Norwalk, as requested. It's a fire suppression unit, and it's also utilized for water supply. The biggest takeaway that I think we all had for those that came out to the fire department that were looking at Engine 23 versus Squad 21, which is our newer rescue pumper, was that Engine 23 doesn't have 3-point seatbelts like cars have been mandated to have for years. It doesn't have airbags. It doesn't have ABS. And this new truck will have all those things. It will have 3-point seatbelts, ABS, airbags, additional hose capacities, which is really big for us, especially with the new construction that we're seeing around town, and the bigger houses are getting built in our district as well. It'll have a larger booster tank. That just means it carries more water, and a larger capacity, pump capacity, which just means that it carries more water. I pulled up some statistics for you guys just from last year alone. It went to 9 structure fires in the town of Darien last year. Those are fires within buildings, could be residential or commercial, responded to both of those categories. This truck, as used, is also responds to chimney fires, road and rail freight fires, brush fires, explosions, and general alarm activations within our district and throughout the town of Darien. Last year alone, it made 22.6% of all calls last year, which is statistically right on par with where it's at before, because we also respond to different types of calls where Engine 23 is not utilized, such as car accidents and vehicle extrications, technical rescues. This is purely a tactical, fire suppression unit. I know I went a little bit quick. I do apologize. It's just purely because I'm at work, but I'm more than happy to answer some questions, or if anyone has questions about what's mechanically needed in the future for the current apparatus, Justin can cover that.
To ask questions, because as I said, everybody's at work on this thing, at least our firemen are. Just unmute yourself and ask your question, and I'm not going to try and control it. So Jim, go right ahead.
Thanks. Jim Cameron, District 4. The life expectancy, and I'm just going to mention numbers because I've heard the ones for the previous engine or pumper. Life expectancy 20 years, is that right?
That
is correct.
Great. And you say that it only has scrap value of $1,750?
Unfortunately, that is the quote we got from the local scrapyard, yes.
Okay. If you've been using it as much as you have, there's no other department that would find it useful? Or conversely, have you been using it as much as you have because you didn't have any other proper or better equipment?
So I'm going to address that in 2 different parts. Justin can attest, it's been pumping at a fire perfectly I think for the last 4 or 5 hours right now. We've been using that truck because we don't have a new truck to replace it with, and that's what this funding request is for.
Understand.
And this truck will stay in service until the new truck arrives because it's something that we need. The town needs it. You know, the pumpers today were all at this fire, and 23 was there as well, as stated before.
But would it be safe to say you will try to get the maximum either resale value or scrap value or collector's value out of it? You're not just going to drive it to some scrapyard and say, "Get small bills, please."
That's correct. Absolutely. We're not going to just drive it down the scrapyard. I think I'll have a lot of people very angry with me if we did that. And at the end of the day, this is something that gets
$2,000. I always wanted to own a fire truck.
The auction will entertain your bids, Werner. I'm sure they'd be happy to.
Well, let me add. I think that this may have, because I do remember this from the tour, and I will tell you the seats that are in there. Once somebody has gear on of what gear typically is done today, I'm surprised that anybody can actually sit in that seat while it's going, let alone wear it. So it's really not safe. But because this even has the 9/11 little logo on it, it may have more of a collectible value anyway to collectors because of that. It is a very special engine because what its history has been.
Yeah, and then just to build off of our Board of Finance meeting that we had the other night, someone brought up if it could possibly be like memorialized in some sort of fashion. So these are all things that we need to consider once we're done and the bond appropriation has been made. We're not going to make plans, that far into the future. The new truck will take, 14 to 16 months to complete, and that's if parts are available. So we need to keep that in mind as well.
I also want to add something else. Go ahead. Go ahead, Jim.
Just a quick question regarding the new truck. Is there thoughts in place to consider the new buildings in town? The stuff at Heights, the stuff downtown. Will this truck handle maybe things that the current truck couldn't handle because of the new buildings? If that makes sense.
Justin, I'm sure you probably want to talk to that point. Let's see. Justin's the chairman of Engine 23's committee. So
absolutely. As soon as those buildings started going up, and actually before that, when we got the blueprints for the building and the plans, we started looking at the capabilities that our current apparatus had, the ability to carry the hose lengths that we needed to carry. And the current trucks really don't do that for us. So we built a truck that its sole purpose, is fire suppression, fire attack, and water supply. So anything to do with fires. By doing that and not making this so much of a multi-purpose rig, like many others are, we're going to be able to carry the equipment needed for not only the new project at Heights, assisted living facilities, schools. There's quite a bit of long stretches in town. When we say stretches, we mean distance we need to carry and move hose lines to get to the seat of the fire. Any other questions regarding,
Okay, well, thank you.
Yes, the answer is yes, that it will be able to provide a better service.
The one thing I wanted to add is something that Monica, I sent out to committee members maybe some of Public Health and Safety also have seen it. There's been a lot of discussion of the emergency services study that was performed by the selectmen. And part of that study was a review of all apparatus in town. And one of the guidelines that the gentleman who did the study said is that any machine that is over 25 years old and lacks current safety standards for the firemen and women that are traveling on it should be replaced. And in fact, in the study, this engine was underlined with the little comment, replace. I believe it's 33 years old or so, or something like that.
34.
34, and got a year older from the last time I read. And I'm telling you, it does not meet current safety standards. So, and we don't want injury to our people serving in the fire departments as they're trying to save other lives. So, to me, that was a no-brainer that this needs to be replaced. It's within the schedule of when it should have been replaced. And there's a lot of very good work by the building committee, if you want to call it that, for how they put it together. And again, these are not small documents. These are 125 to 200 pages where I say jokingly, even what screws are used on it are detailed in this building document. So, you know, it's rather comprehensive, and it does meet the needs from what I understand. If there's no more questions, then I think, Mac, you guys have quorum as well right now. We can both vote, and then I promise that we can both do minutes so that at least Mac can do minutes, so public health and safety does not need to meet before the next RTM meeting. And then we're going to go on to our next item on the agenda. So I have a motion on the floor from F&B. I'm going to ask if there's any no's, please raise your hand. I see no no's. We have one individual who's going to abstain, and I'm going to mention why. Bert's son is part of the Norotan Heights Fire Department. So, you know, in principle, he wants to recluse himself, although not speaking for Bert. I'm sure that if he was going to vote, he would vote in favor of this. Is that correct, Bert?
That's correct. I'm only reclusing myself for technical reasons. I'm fully supportive of the project, and so don't take it any other way than I just need to stay out of it. So I don't look like my son would have said to me, if you don't vote for it, Dad, I'm never going to talk to you again. So that's how it is.
Yes, that we had to put that on record just to maintain peace in the house.
It adds a little excitement to for the viewers. So that's what I have to say.
And if you want to take a look at Bert's son, Bert was part of the presentation to the Board of Selectmen. Anyway, seeing that we have no no's, no abstentions, this passes unanimously for F&B.
Okay, I'll jump in and do the same. Jim, you want to make a quick motion?
Yes, I think we would. Our motion would be to affirm the resolution as presented for the purchase of the new pumper, and in the wording that was described by the first selectman's office.
Okay, great, thank you. So I will also ask: Are there any no votes?
You need a second for that, though?
Safety.
Yeah.
Oh, quick. Yeah, second. Thanks, Lois.
Matt, it's Brian. It got me as a yes.
Okay. Thanks, Brian. So any no votes? I did. Otherwise, I'll consider this unanimous. I actually, like Bert, I have to abstain just because it's a bonding issue, and my firm Morgan Stanley doesn't let me vote on any town issues because our firm may be involved in the actual issuing of the bonds. So that's that. So same thing. I'm fully in favor of this. But thank you. We'll note it as unanimous except for the abstention.
So I do want to add, a comment. We didn't have, I mentioned this at the beginning, but I'll mention it again to all the RTM members. At the time that the rules met, the bond council's bond resolution was not available to the RTM, so we did not put it on the agenda, but I've spoken to Seth and it will be on the agenda. We'll just modify the agenda on Monday, and it'll be the last item on the agenda to vote for. Jim, Mac, do you want to do your minutes?
Yes. Yeah. Any comments or questions on the January 18th minutes?
Motion to approve.
Go ahead, Jim. Okay. All in favor? Great. Thank you. Okay.
Okay,
Unanimous.
that concludes the joint meeting of Public Health and Safety and RTM F&B. And I have to constantly say that you guys are our favorite committee to have joint meetings with. It's always been a lot of fun and we get a lot of things done. So thank you for joining.
Well, thank you.
together.
And a special thanks to Zach and Justin. With what's going on with this fire, I really appreciate you guys being able to be with us.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you
Okay,
for
well,
having us.
Everybody have
okay,
a
motion to
wonderful
adjourn
night.
for
Motion to adjourn.
for Public Health and Safety. Okay. So thanks,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thanks for having us.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move forward with our next part of the meeting. Let me first check, see if Rich and Alan are here, and we can go to the next item on the agenda. There he is. Hi, Alan. How you doing?
Hi, how you doing, Jack?
First of all, I want to give congratulations for anyone who wasn't actually watching on Valentine's Day, the very long Board of Ed meeting, which had a lot of partners being very nice on what was going on there. But the Board of Ed voted to approve their budget. The increase is about 3.55%. I may be off on the change, but it's close enough to that. The capital isn't significant. Again, we're doing a lot of work on the schools. There's 2 Suburbans in there. There's the auditorium. And there's something else that I know is there, but I keep on forgetting because it wasn't focusing on that as opposed to the other 2. So there's not a lot in capital coming from the Board of Ed this year. I think it's down significantly from the prior year. So let's get started. The Board of Ed is putting forward a modification to the Darien High School track that we approved for $450,000 during our budget. And the modification is adding, I have too many memos here today, is adding $366,860 to a bond. We are approving both the appropriation and bond for that. So I'll let you guys give a presentation on it. Most of us should have heard this because it was discussed throughout the Board of Ed meetings, but go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Good evening, everybody. Richard is here, who's our finance director, and Kevin is here, who's our facilities director. I'll give you the short version, and Kevin and Rich can color it in. Essentially, we had 450 in the FY23 capital budget. There is a story that brings an increase of 138, basically 138 to get us to point A of a bid process, an increase from 138. Then there's a second increase of another 227 or so $1,000, which brings us up to the 365. So there were increments that came in with the bids for improvements, and since my colleagues are kind enough to be here tonight, I won't steal their thunder, and I'll let Kevin walk you through it. But we're here tonight for 365, and Kevin will give you a wee bit of color and steps that took place.
Sure, thank you. As Dr. Adley pointed out, the two different increases, one was a base bid for a new rip and replace track surface. We actually went out to bid in October, and we asked for an add alternate of a much better sandwich system, which adds life to the track and also more safety for the athletes that play on it. The Board of Ed recommended going with the add alternate, which is a little bit more expensive, but ultimately a better product, which is why we're here before you tonight.
Any questions on this? If there's a question, unmute yourself and ask away. Seeing no questions, I'll take a motion to move the amendment to the prior bonding resolution for, just put the number away.
I so move.
Okay, this is the advantage of having Rich at Board of Ed meetings, because if nobody else knows it, Rich can just quickly go, well, the number is. We're doing a modification to the prior bond authorization and appropriation for $366,860. To approve this, do I have Bert moving? Do I have a second? I have Beth, number two. All those in favor, raise your hand, or and we're good to go on that. That's unanimous. Okay, so before you guys go to the Board of Ed, we have a slight problem here. So I need to know if this absolutely positively needs to be done on our February meeting. Here's the problem that we arrived at. At the time of the meeting, I didn't have the bond resolution from the bond council, and the Board of Selectmen did not have this on their agenda. And any improvement of this for the schools need to go to the Board of Selectmen before it goes to the Board of Finance and us. And I got a little spoken to. It's not the first time I was called into the principal's office, that the process was a little bit out of order. I have subsequently learned that the Board of Selectmen are meeting on Monday. I just do not know if I can get it back onto the calendar. Do you so I'm an honest question. We can move it to March, or do you absolutely positively need to do this? It's going to be approved. You can tell the vendor we're there. So
I would ask
give me an
Mr.
answer.
Davis, Mr. Davis, if you can work a wee bit of magic, the sooner we get this on the list, it has to be done. Clearly, it has to be done in the summer, and if we don't get added to that list, I think currently Kevin says that they can add us to the list, but the sooner we get that on that list and the sooner we get that approval, the better.
Yeah, no, I understand. I'll try and work my magic on it. I know, Kevin, that there's limited vendors that actually do this, and one of the other vendors is currently already doing Brian McMahon for this summer. So I'm aware of that. Here's the other thing, just as a quick aside. I know we've had some discussions on this. If you need, and I'll speak to Jim Palin, I don't think there'll be a problem on that, but if you need to move the Suburbans up out of the budget and have us deal with it in March or April so you can put in an order, now for that, I would recommend we do, as opposed to waiting for July 1st. And the same on the auditorium side. I know you're going out to bid with it, but you can't sign a contract theoretically until July 1st, when the budget that we're approving is taking place. I can speak for myself. I will be supportive of both of those. I think that the Suburbans are brilliant. I know you have to go to P&Z first. So
we do. I mean, it would certainly be helpful if they were moved up, if
okay.
possible.
I'll speak to Jim Palin and see what we can do. If you guys can get on the P&Z agenda sooner rather than later, that would be helpful to know that that's already approved.
Great.
Okay. Thank you all. Thank you for spending your time.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.
And I have to say, it was a pleasure spending time with you on Valentine's Day. And I think the thought was mutual. Anyway, have a pleasant evening, guys.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you. Appreciate your support.
Thank you.
Okay. Next one that we have is going to be fairly quick. There is work that has been proposed on the Weed Beach Meadow and Trail construction bid package there. To get the cost of the construction, there's a gift from the Darien Foundation for $25,000. As it was stated, and we will emphasize in our report, the mere fact that we are approving the bid package does not commit the town that we're moving forward with this project. This project was pulled off because it's over $1 million, and there's a Board of Selectmen agreement that anything over $1 million needs to have a building committee. And so it was pulled out of the budget and will be dealt with separately during the course of the year. So I need a motion to accept the gift from the Darien Foundation for $25,000 for the Weed Beach Meadow and Trail construction bid package. I have Barry, and I need a second. Okay, I have Malin. Any questions? Great. Are we ready to vote? All in favor? Raise your hand, say aye, do something. That's unanimous. Second gift. And there's more information that has come out on this. There is at the regular meeting of the Park and Rec Commission, they approved the acceptance of a gift for $20,000. It's in honor of, I'm going to have difficulty pronouncing, of Bill Dordelman, and it's a gift from his children and wife. He passed away at the beginning of the pandemic, and rather than having a memorial service, they wanted to do something that honored their father that was a little bit more lasting. He spent a tremendous amount of time at Cherry Lawn, coached there, brought his kids there, and so they decided to do the gazebo. The town had already started to do some of the gazebo, so what they're doing is they've committed up to $20,000 for fixing the bottom of the gazebo, the ADA ramp, and there will be a plaque as honoring him in the gazebo for that. Estimate for this project by Pam Gary, who didn't bring it forward until she had a good estimate to make sure the costs were covered, is $17,500. So I need somebody to move acceptance of the gift from the Dordelman family for work on the Cherry Lawn Park gazebo. Do I have somebody moving it? I have Bert. I have Barry. Second. There is a little nuance here, and that is we do not have the cash in hand, but there is a commitment to give it once the project is completed. So that's the only other thing I'm going to mention. That shouldn't change how we vote. All in favor, raise your hand. Okay, great. That's unanimous. The last item on the agenda is, this is a little nuanced thing. Anybody who was employed prior to a date in 1996 was able to get compensation without proving it for heart, and I'm probably going to say the wrong thing, and I believe it's, here we go. Heart and
Hypertension.
hypertension settlement. And so in this particular case, these are now, because the law changed, these are now handled as workman comps. But before, when workman comps, you still have to prove that the heart and hypertension was caused by the job. The law that said if you were hired prior to July 1st, 1996, there was no need to prove. So you could be sitting at a desk as a policeman or a fireman, have a heart condition that came up, and it was then determined that that was caused by the job. The individual has a 27.5 rating computed by a doctor by the town and a doctor by his own. Typically, these are paid out in weekly payroll, as we would do a biweekly payroll. Unfortunately, it was not paid where it was started to. The settlement came, and so it's a settlement of $142,714. Here's the tricky part. We're not approving the settlement. Settlement's already done and completed. What we are approving is a special appropriation to pay the settlement. That's it. So I know at the Board of Finance there was some further discussion on what our potential liability is for others that are there. I believe there's 3 other officers in the police department who were hired prior to that date. None have made claims. But again, we're not here to put a footnote into a financial statement on potential liability that we can't quantify. And we're not here to approve the settlement. The settlement's been done and approved by the appropriate parties. What we're doing is just paying for it. So are there any questions on that?
Jack, so we approve the disbursement of the funds?
Yep, that's it.
What we do? How much is it?
$142,714. It's based upon what his salary would have been during that time. So at the time he retired, and this is the compensation that he's getting based upon what his pay grade was at the time of his retirement based upon this disease.
And I guess if it hadn't been part of a settlement, we would have been liable. We could have possibly been liable for a lot more money, or in a lengthy trial, we would have paid less.
I can't answer whether or not this is the final settlement on this. The new HR director, who's been here for 6 months, wasn't really part of this settlement, so she couldn't answer that. I'm also not an attorney, and what Peter and Beth would remind me at all times is I should not make legal statements. So I'm not going to say whether or not this is the final settlement or whether or not there's any other future liabilities here. I know that this is the settlement for this, and the gentleman gets paid in full as opposed to the weekly installments they would have had we started paying this in May of 2019.
Jack, one thing that I thought was interesting about this discussion is that the HR director for the town said that this is highly specialized, this type of settlement, and that now the town has specialists that take over the negotiations and tracking all of this, which before was never done. And she
Right.
said you really need somebody that knows what they're doing, that's monitoring all your employees that were hired before this date because of this quirky kind of law. And so I thought that was pretty good that she came in and identified that she's not the right person to do this. So I thought that was good news moving
I
forward.
would agree, and I think that this the company that they hired, I'm curious or whatever it is. I'll have to get the name by the time the report happens. But the other part of this is they will also be working with us on any workman's comp issue as well. So we're bringing in experts so that we don't have to do it. So other than that, I apologize. Did I have somebody move this and second it? Okay, so I'll take somebody to move it. Okay, I have Beth, and to second, Peter, you moved your hand, so you're seconding. All right, all in favor, say aye, or raise your hand or do something. So this passes unanimous. And last but not least, Jenny's out of town. Usually she would be doing the last minutes. Are there any corrections to the last minutes that were distributed? If not, then let's vote. I need somebody to move it. Somebody moved the minutes of the last meeting. I got Peter. And second, I got Beth. All in favor, say aye. Okay, great. And actually, this isn't bad. I need a motion to adjourn. Yeah.
Before we adjourn, just one question. We did not really follow the order of the agenda tonight.
That is correct.
Is there any is there a rule that we have to vote before we have our meeting to change the agenda?
That would be true. So we'll do a special thing now because that's what we're going to find out on FOIA. I should have said that I'd like a motion to modify the agenda. And I printed out all these pages and forgot to print out the order of the agenda. So I knew what we had to do. So I'll take a motion to modify the agenda as we did it. We have Peter.
And I support that motion. So
okay, so we'll have Bert. We'll do a quick vote. We're all in favor. And this is one of the things that on the Monday meeting, we will have a presentation on FOIA. It's going to take about an hour, but everybody says that this gentleman is very entertaining, takes questions from the floor, and that people who have seen this before from this gentleman from the state said he's very funny. So I've just set him up to be funny while he's doing this on us. But now I'll take the motion to adjourn. And I have Bert and Barry and woohoo, we've gotten it done in about 45 minutes. All in favor, say aye. Have a pleasant evening. And I'll get out when we're meeting next.